All right, we are preparing. Welcome. All right, I think we are getting ready now. So if you could just say here, if you're here, I always like to see like who's watching it live versus who's watching the replay. And I am recording this, so if internet is kind of going in and out for the live stream, we might I can repost it later or something like that. All right. So let me know if you can hear me. I've got my microphone set up. And although for those who normally attend in my live class, know this, but I'll say it again. I don't always do all the postures with you. A lot of times I will take that modification to showcase that because for those who don't need modifications, you most likely know how to do that. Not always the case, but normally in my experience. So, welcome to Monday Morning Yoga. For those who are local tuning in, I normally teach at the Norton Commons YMCA on Monday and Friday morning at 8 a.m. And so some of you all might be jumping on. And if you're not from that class and you're jumping on, that is perfectly fine as well. Just stay here. Now, right, we're raw. There's no makeup, no hair. So don't judge. And again, I'll be taking the modifications while I'm in teaching this today as well. Now, we've had a theme, and that is we moved through the root chakra last month, and we are moving into the sacral chakra this month. Now, for those that are like, what does that mean? That means our sacral area, which for us women is our womb space. Um, but here within the hips, so we'll be doing a little bit more hip work, working on the joints, but also working on that low core. And although it worked on the tailbone quite a bit during the root chakra, the tailbone will still be involved as we continue to root into I am safe. And with the sacral, we'll be rooting into I am creative. I am free to express myself. And so there is a lot of correlation between the sacral chakra and the throat chakra. Now, as always, most of my classes, we start in seated position. So you could sit in hero's pose if you'd like, although most of us will find that sitting in this crisscross or just seated position is best. And you may find your hips are tight here. That's okay. We'll work through it. So, hands on the knees, feel free to use that support. And if you do have a block, you could put a block underneath of you. But if the floor is available, I'm going to recommend that. Let's start with connecting our breath and body. So, we'll take a big inhale, looking up towards the ceiling. We're taking the seated cat cow. Exhale, look towards the belly button, rounding over. Inhale, lift and exhale, round. We'll just continue to do that. I won't do it as big just because of my microphone here. But getting the head and neck involved as you do this, checking in with your heart space, so in the front and back of the heart. And then we can check in with the belly or the solar plexus area. And then we're checking in with that sacral area, so that low belly. You might even notice this is that feeling of the tailbone rocking. And this is just syncing breath to body. So it's that big inhale, lifting up, and exhale, rounding over. Let's do that one more time. And then we're going to start to take this into our Sufi churn. So reaching forward, we're still getting that forward movement. As we transition through our exhale, we're pushing through that rib and then pushing back in our exhale position. And then we'll start that inhale, circling around. Full inhale, we land in that cow. And pulling back into that cat. Now you can continue to take this slow. Normally in the morning, I do as I'm warming up my hips and low back. I find most of us are recovering from either one, just inflammation as we get older. That seems to be more prevalent. It can be our diet, it can be our sleep, it could be injuries. So feel free to take this slow. And as we are at home, it might be available to make your breath more audible. So that ujjayi breath or that big inhale. And maybe you allow yourself to sink into this, getting more into that creative energy. And for some of us, we might feel that as more of a sensuality. And in yoga, we say that word meaning we're feeling into our senses more. So it's this tuning in and noticing, how does this feel throughout the body? Maybe it's noticing the breath a little bit more intensely. And then we'll reverse this and take it in the other direction. And if you're just joining, welcome. You can comment here, or after we're finished, you can comment live or replay. And that just lets me know who all's here. And again, this inhale and exhale as you start to warm up the spine. And again, syncing breath and body is the most important part at the beginning of the yoga class to create that foundation for the rest of the class. You might start to speed this up. And we're just waking up the body. We'll do this about 2 more times. And then coming back to neutral, we'll drop one hand down. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, swooping in the front. Inhale, lift. Exhale, swoop. Inhale, lift. Exhale, swoops like you're skimming water. Inhale, lift. Now, you might just tune into this and come into this flow. You could close your eyes, sink in, or you might be more intentional and start the inhale before you start the movement. Start the exhale before you start the movement. It just depends on what you are needing this morning. Although, as we tune into the sacral chakra, I will say this playfulness, this creativity, being able to dance it up a little bit, will definitely tune into that energy. And one more. And then we'll take it to our forward fold. So you can land up high and focus on the neck. You might fold forward and focus on either the shoulders or hips. Notice your breath and see if you can feel your breath into a particular spot within your body. Can you feel this swelling up and this release? So seeing if you can feel that. See if maybe you can breathe a little deeper. As we move through today's practice, it's important for you to listen to your body. And using the breath and noticing the breath will be an important aspect. So if at any point it is a struggle to take those deep breaths, you can, one, choose to sit there and focus on it. Or two, you can back out of the posture just a little bit so that you can breathe deeper. Go ahead and walk those hands up, roll your shoulders back, and we're going to cross our legs in the other direction. And we're going to take a twist. So inhale, lengthen. And we're pulling that belly button up and in from that low core, this zipping up and in. Opposite hand to knee. Don't worry, we'll get to the other side. Cupped fingers in the back. Inhale, lengthen the spine. And exhale, begin to rotate through the core. So inhale, lengthen. Exhale, rotate. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, rotate. We'll do that one more time. Try not to pull with that leg, but rather use it as a doorstop. And then Coming back to center, we're going to leave that hand on the knee, and that back hand is going to come up and over. Now, this time we are kind of pulling, we're holding onto that knee and allowing ourselves to lean, opening up those ribs. Take a deep breath. Pull through the core first, so tighten up your core, then lift up. Switch, other hand comes over, cupped fingers in the back. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, begin to rotate. Again, we're rotating through the core by pulling the core up and in. And then inhale, lengthen the spine like we're wringing out a towel. Turning the head to further that twist. Take another deep breath. And then we'll hold on to that knee as we lift that back hand, reaching up and over. Feel your breath. Notice if you can breathe deeper. And then we're lifting up, releasing. We're taking that forward fold. So you can stay up high or you can release down. Letting yourself fold. And you stay there. I'm just going to check in and make sure you don't have any questions. So welcome to our Monday morning. Perfect. So good to see you all. Feeling your breath. And then begin to walk those hands up, restacking the spine. And then we'll just roll the shoulders back and down. Rolling the shoulders back and down. I'm adding this today because as it's cold outside, our shoulders tend to creep up towards our ears. So we want to slowly pull those shoulders down to lengthen the neck. One more time. And then we'll transition into our tabletop, into our cat-cow. So wrists are under shoulders and knees are under hips. Inhale, let the belly fall out. Lengthen the neck by pulling the shoulders back. Look up towards the ceiling. This is your big inhale. And then exhale, look towards your belly button and push the spine to ceiling. And I say push because you'll push into the hands to pull out of the shoulders. Push into the knees and really push the spine up on that exhale. Take this to breath. Inhale and exhale. You continue if you would like, after a few of these standard versions, you may like to shift your hips back to one heel, then shift your hips back to the other heel. So we'll still take that inhale, but as you exhale, you might shift back. So you'd have that rounding happening. Now you can speed up the breath, you can slow the breath, whichever one is fine, but as long as the breath and the body are moving together. And then we'll take this into our child's pose. Our child's pose, big toes can come together, knees can come as wide as you need. As your bottom reaches towards your heels, your hands come out and your forehead comes down. Now, if your forehead does not touch, you could use a block or a book. So yoga block, I like the soft foam ones. So you could use that underneath of your head or a book, or you can just hang there and let gravity begin to work on you. Notice your breath. And then we're going to push into one hand, slide the other hand back. So we're just opening up the armpit. Take another deep breath. Slide that hand back out, and then slide the other hand in. Taking that deep breath. Come back out. And then walk the hands in just enough to tuck the toes. Lift the hips. Downward facing dog. Roll the shoulders back. Pull the belly button actively up and in. The heels don't have to touch. But we do want a soft elbow so that we can lengthen the neck. Take another deep breath. And then look in between the hands and step the feet forward. Coming into your forward fold, allow yourself to hang heavy. So as you hang heavy, you might let your elbows dangle. Maybe it's just the hands dangle. And just steady breaths. For me, I've got an injury from a car wreck, and combined with sitting at a desk most of the day, breathing into my upper back feels really good. But you choose. Let's take another big exhale. And then walk the hands up the legs. We'll come up to standing. Beginning our vinyasa. So inhale, reach up. Exhale, dive forward. Now, as we dive forward, we want to really lead with the chest. The arms come out. And this will take the pressure off of that low back. And then we'll round into that forward fold. As we come into our flat back, we're going to reach long through the top of the head, pull the shoulders back, pull the belly button in. So again, protecting that back. Exhale, release down. Left foot steps back into warrior one. So warrior one, the toes are just slightly out. The front foot, toes are facing forward. Hands on the hips to rotate forward. And then level the hips. And then scoop that low belly in. And we're going to play here for a moment. So this exhale, scoop. Inhale, release. Exhale, scoop. Inhale, release. It's very subtle. And allowing yourself to start warming up through that hip flexor. Now, we will be on our knees today. So if you need, you might have a towel or a little blanket, and you can have that as some extra padding. Now, if you're like me, I'm already on carpet, so I have a little extra padding already. Inhale, lift the hands, and then we're going to drop the elbows. Inhale, lift the hands, and drop the elbows. As you're here, keep bending into that front knee and make sure that you're not pushing the belly out, but rather pulling it in and trying to maintain shoulders over hips. This is inhale, lift, exhale, drop the elbows. And there's a couple different ways in which this benefits, as it's providing a distraction as we hold the posture, but also it's providing more real life scenarios of creating this realignment as other things are moving, right? So as we're creating new habits, it's rare that we're in a bubble creating new habits, but rather we're living life. All right, this next time we bring them down, let the hands come all the way down, and we're going to step back into a plank. Now, I would recommend for this first one to drop towards your knees, shifting forward. So we're in that plank. Elbows squeeze in. Elbow crease is positioned forward. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift the chest for cobra. We're lifting through the back of the head. And then exhale, release. Push into the knees, tuck the toes, push up, assisted push up. And then we'll roll through the toes and into downward facing dog. This is how I do for protecting that back as much as possible. However, if you are doing another version, feel free to stick with that. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, lower. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, lower. Assisted push up, tuck those toes. Push up on the inhale. Exhale, shift back. Downward facing dog. We're going to do that one more time. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, lower. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, lower. Assisted push up, inhale. Exhale, downward facing dog. Take a moment. You can pedal your knees if you'd like. And then we're going to look in between the hands. This is important for the neck. And then step forward. 1 and 2. Of course, if you need some extra steps, go for it. Release. And here, as you're hanging, again, allow yourself to release any tension in the shoulders. This is allowing gravity to pull on your spine in the opposite direction, which if you've ever seen those like inversion chairs and tables, this is doing a similar effect. And then walk your hands up the legs, restack the spine. Inhale, lift. We'll take a baby back bend, exhale. Come back up. And then diving forward, exhale. Inhale, flat back, tighten it all up. Exhale, release. Right foot steps back into warrior one. So that toe's just slightly out. Roll yourself up. And you might have seen there's some mats out there that have like this big line down the middle. So I'll use this term called midline. And I'm referring to is realigning your hips so that you're in line with that midline, because you have a midline too. So squeezing those hips in, that rotating forward. And then just like we did before, tuck, release, tuck, release. Bend the front knee, make sure it's over the ankle. And this exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. So we're warming up that hip flexor on the right side, because a lot of times it gets tight for multiple reasons. We might be sitting a lot. We might be doing repetitive patterns like just walking and not moving our toes in different directions. So continue that tuck. And then we'll hold in that tucked position. Again, knee over ankle. Inhale, lift the hands. Exhale, drop the elbows. Inhale and exhale. Now, as you continue to move those hands, make sure the hips stay squared forward and we still have and maintain that tuck. And I find even for myself, I still am constantly playing with rewiring those habits. So I'm constantly readjusting, noticing, oh, now my feet. Check in with my knees. Check in with my hips. Check in with my low back and pelvis. How's my spine? How's my neck? And as soon as I get up to my head, my knee might have came back out. So then I rescan. This time as the hands come down, bring them all the way down. Step back. Drop the knees if needed. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift the chest for cobra. Exhale, lower. Assisted push-up. You might tuck those toes now. And then exhale into downward facing dog. We've got 2 more times on this. Inhale, forward. Exhale, lower. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, lower. Inhale, assisted push-up. Exhale, shift back. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift up for cobra. Exhale, lower. Assisted push-up. And if you'd like, you can take a child's pose here if you need it. Or you might come into that downward facing dog. So you choose what you need in this moment. And wherever you land, just feel your breath. That inhale, that exhale. Gaining control of the breath is one of the biggest focuses in yoga, because as we can tap into our prana, we can control our prana, we can control the mind, we can control our mood. And when I say control, meaning we can bring awareness to it, and then we can bring it back into a calm state. So notice that for yourself. Let's take one more big deep breath. And then we'll meet in downward facing dog if you weren't already there. Looking in between the hands and stepping forward. 1 and 2. Coming into that forward fold. Hang out, release, maybe give it a wiggle. And then inhale, stack or roll up. Release the shoulders. And now, as I mentioned, you might want that blanket or extra padding. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, dive forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale and fold. Left foot steps back. We're going to step it all the way back onto the toes and then drop that knee. shift your weight forward. Now, for some of us, it might vary how much we shift that weight forward. You might use something like a block to help the floor come closer to you. And we're just breathing into this. Again, these hip flexors are often very tight, especially as we sit more and more. And begin to releasing them. So you might notice for you might be shifted a little bit in one angle. If you'd like to play with creating sensation, you might shift into a different angle. If you're like, this is intense, I'm just here wherever I'm at, that's good too. And then finding that breath. Noticing where you're holding tension that you can release. And you might sink into this a little bit more. Take another deep breath. Slowly lifting up. So you're going to push back and then we're going to rise up. Now this does challenge balance a little bit. So if you need, you can heel toe that foot wider to create the wider base. Inhale, lifting up the hands. And then we're going to drop to the side. Take an exhale. Inhale, we're going to drop to the other side. Exhale. Inhale. And as we come down, I'm going to bring my hands to the top of my thigh, that right thigh. And as I push back, I'm going to push into my heel. So I'm pushing from knee to heel, pushing forward. From knee to hip, I'm pulling back. Again, a block might help, or you can steady on that knee. Notice your breath. Now, this isn't about how far can I go into this. This is about that alignment. So knee to heel and ankle, pushing forward, knee to hip, pulling back. Now, for me right now, my hips are shifting a little bit more to the left. So I'm going to recenter and it's going to challenge my balance. It's going to make this a little bit harder. And I could go into the full drop, but I would not have the best alignment if I did. So I'm focusing on my alignment first. Take a deep breath. And then I'm going to come back up, bring this knee around back. So both knees are on the floor. Inhale, lift. And I'm just going to lean back. So this is lengthening through the quads. And then come back up. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, reaching back. And I'm going to take a big inhale to lift up. Let's do that again. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. One more time. Coming back up, left hand to hip. We're not going into full camel. We're just opening up that shoulder. Take another breath. And then bring the other hand down. And you might lift the left hand. You could leave it there too. Noticing your breath. Release that hand. Bring both hands down. Tuck the back toes into your plank. We're going to do this one time. Feel free to drop your knees or keep your knees dropped if you'd like. Exhale, lower. Lift for cobra. Exhale, lower. Assisted push-up. Exhale, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. Pedal shift. Check in with your alignment. So chest pushing towards the top of the feet, belly button pushing in, soft elbows, long neck, deep breath. And then walk it forward. Come into your fold. Release the elbows, shake out the head. Notice if you'd like to pedal your knees. This can help with that hamstring release. And if you're flexible here and you feel yourself bending back, so that means the bottom is not over the heels, then push into the toes, let the head fall heavier. Walking the hands up, restack the spine, inhale, lift the hands. Baby back bend. Inhale up, exhale, dive forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Right foot steps back, all the way back onto the toes. We're going to drop that knee. And we're going to shift that weight forward. So again, block helps the floor come closer. And as we do this too, this will help with your digestive system because it's pushing on the intestines. And as we do one leg and then the other, that is intentional to do this compression. As you're here, notice that right hip. So that right hip, you might be feeling it more on the inside, on that inner groin, or at least I do. You might be feeling it on the outside, maybe in the middle. There's several connection points into the hip here that you may be feeling this. So just allow yourself to breathe into it, be gentle with yourself. Deep, steady breaths. Tell the body that we're here intentionally. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. We'll be here for about 2 more breaths. So big inhale, big exhale. And you might tell yourself, I need more of this. If that's what you might be needing more of. Slowly shifting back up. And we want to take this in between. So we're coming onto the knees. We're steadying. So if you need to widen your base, you could. Inhale, lift. And then dropping over to the side. Exhale. Inhale, up. Exhale, other side. Inhale, up. And then from here, hands are coming down, pushing into the heel. So we're pushing knee to heel, knee to hip, pulling back as we also push. Again, feel free to steady yourself. Another advantage of being at home, you might use the wall. Deep breaths, but also finding the edge of discomfort. We don't want to be fully in discomfort. And depending on what you want to gain out of the practice for today, you might not fully be in comfort. It is good to push ourselves a little bit as we build that endurance and endurance on so many levels. Take another breath. Notice your hips if you're leaned to one side more than the other. And then come back up. Release this foot behind you. And then a camel warm up again. Inhale, lift. Right hand comes back. Lifting up. We might get a little bit more of a back bend this time. So feel free to push into the top of the hip as you reach up and over. And then come back up. Switching hands. Inhale. Exhale. Opening up that shoulder, opening up the chest. So not just dumping here, but rather it's this upward lift. I like to imagine one of those big giant exercise balls behind me. I'm reaching up and over. Come back up. And then shifting to counteract that, we're going to take our child's pose. So forehead to mat. Release it out. Feel your breath. Notice the inhale. Notice the exhale. And then go ahead and slide your hands forward. Then come onto your belly. And we're going to take a wide cobra. So my hands are under the elbows, off my mat, lifting up through the back of the head. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, lifting through the back of the head. Exhale. One more time. And then bring your hands forward, creating a little pillow. We're going to lift one foot. Make circles with that foot. One direction. And you could have your forehead rested on your hands if you'd like. Circle that in the other direction. And then let it just slide side to side like a windshield wiper. And release. Other foot comes up. Circle in one direction. and circle in the other direction. So this is working through all the nerves in that tailbone and hip. You may or may not feel it, but it's doing it. And then windshield wiper. And see how far that foot can come in both directions. I know my right is a little more limited than my left. And then we'll bring both feet up and windshield wiper. Notice your breath and release. Right foot comes down, left foot, we're going to reach towards that left foot. Now, some of us, we might grab the pant leg. Others, we might grab the foot. Some of us, we might just be reaching, and that's okay too. But if you can grab onto the foot from the outside, this will help open up that shoulder. Guide your shoulder and chest towards the floor if possible. And you may hold here and just take those deep, steady breaths. Or if you'd like to challenge a little more, press your hand into your foot, foot into your hand. And you can find this engagement where it's tension. You're bringing in intentional tension. Take a deep breath. Exhale, release. Switch it to the other side. So we're reaching right hand towards right foot or opposite for you. Notice if one side's different than the other. Chest towards the floor. Notice if you'd like to engage. Push the hand into the foot, foot into the hand. Breathing through that. Yes, we're creating intentional tension and then breathing through it. Oh, the correlations to life, right? We can practice it on our mat so that when it happens in real life, we're more prepared. Release. Bring your hands next to the chest. Assisted push-up. And push back to that child's pose again to counteract that back bend. Now, I will say as you rest there that those back bends, if you are already in adrenal fatigue, if you're already feeling like you might have kidney issues or you might feel like chronic fatigue all of the time, we want to make sure that we don't overdo it on back bends. This one was a gentle one. We did one side and the other. So noticing your urge to overdo or underdo. And then begin to pull yourself up out of child's pose and onto your back. So as we come onto our back, we'll keep our feet on the floor. And with our feet on the floor, we're going to start with those pelvic tilts. So just tuck and release. Tuck and release. That's your exhale to tuck. Inhale to release. Now, I do want to specify here that we're not just lifting the tailbone and squeezing the glutes. That we are pulling up through that low core. Try not to get the glutes involved too much, as if you're just pressing your low back into the floor through this low core tightening, so that you're not over squeezing the glutes, because I could easily over squeeze and try to lift up and press it in. That's different than my low core pulling. It's much more subtle. That's much more helpful, especially for that sacral chakra. Notice your breath. Fall into a rhythm. And then release. Keeping that low back fairly pressed into the floor. We'll take our right toes up towards the ceiling and we're going to circle outward. See if you can feel the hip in the floor. So we're not overly reaching or overly exercising, but we're opening up that hip. And then on the inward direction, so rotating in the opposite way. And as we rotate in that inward direction, we can now cross the ankle over to the knee and let our hips rock and sway side to side. Rock and sway. You can choose if you'd like to make this big or you can keep this small. Your choice. I like to say, choose your own adventure. Notice your breath wherever you are. And then release that foot. We'll do the same with the other. So left toes towards ceiling. Point the toes. A nice long leg. Low back's fairly pressed into the floor. Circle out. Notice your breath. And then we'll circle inward. And then we'll cross that over and rock and sway. So this helps open up that piriformis, which is, I worked at the physical therapy clinics. This was one of the biggest reasons I saw people come in that were just experiencing like low back pain or hip pain, maybe instability. It was because of this muscle in the glutes. And this was one of the most common exercises that we were giving out. And I would say like 50% were probably this, and the other 50% were a variety of things, sometimes from injuries. Release. Now we're going to open up, and you may like to hold your hand there, make a fist, use a block, or just let gravity happen. We're going to just let that knee open up. So it's just the one. And what typically happens is your low back tries to recruit. So try to release, relax the chest, relax the shoulders. The palms can come out if that's available. And just deep, steady breaths. In through the nose, belly rises. See if you can take that open mouth exhale. We are preparing for Savasana. And this is beginning to open up those hips. It's allowing us to settle in relaxation. And there's phases and stages of relaxation. So we are tuning in, we're listening to the body. We're allowing that hip to open. We're just using gravity, but also finding this deeper breath, this belly breath, the belly rising and falling. If that's hard or difficult for you, rather, you might even place something on your belly and see if you can make it rise and fall. That could be an option just to help with that awareness. As we lift up through this knee, I would suggest to use your hand to help facilitate and tighten the core too. And then let that other knee open up. Same thing, deep breaths. See if you can find your spine in a nice long position. Just settling, feeling that deep breath. Is there any tension you're holding on to that you can release? Maybe it's your shoulders or jaw. One more breath. And you can use that hand to assist. Now, from here, you get to choose. If your low back is going, oh, yeah, no, that's not going to be good for me, then bring your knees together, take your feet wide. This will also help open up all of the nerves around the tailbone, too. And you could stay here for Savasana if you'd like. The legs can come out, the shoulders underneath of you. The palms come open, and this allows the collarbone to rotate open. And then closing your eyes. Let's start with 3 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Just settling into this space, this moment. And you might choose to continue to stay with that breath, allowing it to be your anchor or your focal point. You could take a body scan. You could just simply release and let go. Traditionally, Savasana is practiced for about 15 minutes. So as we wrap up for today, feel free to stay here. If you do need to get up and do other things, then you can follow my cueing. But we'll at least be here for a few minutes. Just feeling the inhale and the exhale. If you feel the mind wandering, I definitely would recommend continuing those deep belly breaths because that will get you out of survival and into rest and digest. Of course, if your body's craving any other movements, you have a choice to listen to the body and take those cravings, or you could build up uh, a tolerance to discomfort. There's beauty in both. With each exhale, releasing a little more. Savasana or surrender, allowing ourselves to let go and also enter a state of healing. It's what you need to let go of. Letting go. Let's take 3 more deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. And bring movement back into the body by wiggling the fingers and toes. Maybe you move into the joints, so the ankles and wrists. Then we'll take the hands overhead, bring the feet together, big stretch, tense, and then soften. And we'll roll over to one side, taking a pause, and then we'll transition up to seated. If you're seated, you might take that simple pose, or maybe you land on the knees. Either way is fine. I'm just setting an intention. For many of us, it's the new year, and maybe we've set goals, maybe we haven't. Maybe it's a continuation, like there's something you are working on or working towards, and there's something you'd like to do better or have more intention with. Just setting that from a place of love. We cannot shame ourselves into being better. We must love ourselves into being better. So we be gentle with ourselves. We release any shame or guilt. We do it out of love, like a loving parent guiding a child. Inhale, lift the hands up, bring them into prayer, and slide that prayer down into your heart, bowing to your higher, wiser self. As you can see and honor that, you can see and honor it in each other. Namaste. Thank you for practicing with me today. Again, if you'd like to stay in Savasana, feel free to stay there. But for those who are wanting to continue to deepen their practice, we are having a 111 event. So it's next Saturday. It's on January 11th, 111. And we will be having transformative breath work. We'll be having yoga and sound bowls. And then I will be providing an inner child healing hypnosis. It's reparenting your inner child. It's beautiful, beautiful. I will bring tissues because such a beautiful release. It's an experience like none other. It was my first exposure to hypnotherapy or hypnosis, and it's powerful, it's healing. I felt major shifts after I had my first experience and continued to with each time that I did it. Because as we work on manifesting our goals, manifesting our health, whatever it is that you want to bring into fruition, that it requires releasing old patterns in order to start new patterns, new habits, new ways of thinking, new ways of doing, new ways of being. And if you are ready to release all of that, and meaning if you've ever like, I want to do this, but I can't seem to get myself to do it, or it just doesn't get higher on the priority list, that's the unblocking and the unreleasing. So if you'd like that link, just say link below and I will get that to you. Um, Other than that, I do have a Facebook group. I'll drop that here where it is I Love Yoga. It's all about like self and spiritual development. We'll be having more yoga classes regularly in there too. And it's a free community, no strings attached, but helping you further your practice, ask those questions, get that support. So it's just one of my give backs. And I hope to see you soon. All right. Bye.